We've talked a lot about customer discovery and how from customer discovery you can start inferring and looking at patterns to identify your customer segments. But customer segments by themselves are not market segments. They tend to be too focused, too small, and too difficult to quantify by themselves. So part of what we're now going to talk about is how to aggregate up into market segments, the actual set of people that you'll be directing your marketing to and putting together your marketing plan and strategy for. Let's go back and think about our business model canvas and this whole idea of we identify should we do the business by looking at customers and developing product market fit. And then that relates again to can we, the various resources that we need. A lot of times you have choices along the way, and when you're trying to determine your revenue streams, that lower right-hand box, then you need to start thinking about how many customers can I be reaching? What's the size of that market? And then we go back to our bottoms-up work, our ground-up work, the customer archetype, the customer discovery, where you've laid out the demographics, the psychographics of your customers, their behaviors, and their product requirements, functional, emotional, and social. Out of that, you put together a picture of your customers. Then it's time to do the secondary research. And that's when you start looking in various industry databases to start saying, okay, I might be selling food. Let's again focus on this family buying crackers. But there's a subset of that, snack food, and there's a subset of that, crackers. And if you look closely at this chart, crackers are an immense market. It's a $6.7 billion market. But you are not in the cracker market segment. Your market segment is a little bit below that. It might be crackers for kids because it's a little girl who's expressing interest in this product. But there might be even more to that if you're starting to think about what the requirements are of the different family members. So if mom is focusing on health while a little girl is focusing on taste, you might have even a healthy crackers for kids submarket set that you're thinking about. So this helps to illustrate that this is actually a challenge to think about market segmentation. There is a clear definition for it. Homogeneity, that everybody within a segment has somewhat similar wants and needs. And yet, they're distinctive from other segments so that you can be focusing in on them. And they may also have similar reactions to various marketing efforts or outreach, whether it's advertising or social media or various marketing channels or delivery channels. You can take those customer segment characteristics and aggregate up to the point where you can start counting people. And that's where getting support from a good business librarian can be very helpful. And you can start looking at industry reports and databases. You'll also come across a lot of vocabulary related to market potential and market segmentation. You'll often hear the idea of the total available market or the total addressable market, and sometimes people will just start calling it the TAM. And this is the very large revenue opportunity available for a product or service, and something you're highly unlikely to ever achieve simply because it's the entire universe. It's everybody with that set of characteristics. Within that, there's kind of a feasibility test, the served available market, which is focusing in on those people that you can reach. And this might be about geography, or it might be about some other form of distribution. Still within that is your target market, and that's where you start getting into even more detail related to the demographics and psychographics of your potential customers. The target market also may be too big for you to approach from the very beginning because it's very expensive to enter a market. And that's where we start thinking about the beachhead market, your very first market segment. So a beachhead market segment was, that term was coined by Geoffrey Moore, the same guy that did Crossing the Chasm. And it's the idea of that initial market segment from which you'll pursue the mainstream market. And it has a set of characteristics. Customers who have a single compelling must-have reason to buy. In other words, your sale is going to be relatively easy. But also, they need to enable later entry to related or contiguous market segments. So success in this segment should be able to lead you to others who perhaps are observing this segment and would trust the results in that segment as they start thinking about your product or service. Another characteristic is also that your first market segment should be big enough to carry you forward, because you need to start generating enough revenue to keep growing your business unless you're planning to get a whole lot of investment. So to recap, customer discovery leads to customer segments, which grows up to market segments. You will learn a lot about your market segments from your secondary research, but you can't do that well unless you really understand it at a primary level, your customer interviews and observations, which drive the insights to defining your segments and identifying that beachhead. Here's another way to put it. If there is already a market research report out there with all the information you need, it is probably too late for your new venture.